today we are going to work on graphing parabolas. This is day 2. And in day 2 we should start understanding how what certain equations will produce. The first thing that we should always do is figure out what A, B, and C is. So A is 1, B is 0, C is 0. Why do we know that? Because these equations are written in standard form. And standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c, where a represents the coefficient of x squared. So the coefficient of x squared would be a 1. That's why our a is 1. B is the coefficient of x. We notice that there is no x in this equation. So the only way that there isn't an x is if there was a 0 as the coefficient. So we have 0 x's, and our c value is the constant, and we notice again there's no constant here, so it must be 0. Now that's number 1. We get those all set in place, and now we find the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is going to use the formula x equals the opposite of b over 2a, using your a, b, and c. So the opposite of b over 2 times a. So we get 0 over 2, which equals 0. So our axis of symmetry is going to be where x equals 0. Here is our x-axis, and x is 0 right along the y-axis. So there is our axis of symmetry. Now, once we find the axis of symmetry, we know that our vertex is going to lie on that axis of symmetry. So we have to find the vertex. That's a horrible way of writing vertex. By plugging in the value that you got the axis of symmetry, your x value. So your equation is y equals x squared, and we're going to plug in 0 for x. So 0 squared equals 0. So my coordinate is going to be, I plugged in 0 for x, and I got 0 for y. So that's going to be my first point. Now, the next step, step 3 should be plot the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is the c value. That equals our c value. So our c value was 0. So the vertex 0, 0 happens to also be the same location where the line crosses the y-axis. So that actually is the same point. So I can't add any more points to this, which is unfortunate because we always want to be adding points. So in this example, there is no, well, it's not that there isn't a y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0. But it's just, we already have that point plotted. And then the next point, or the next step, would to mirror that point. But again, it's not applicable because that point lies on the axis of symmetry, so there is no mirroring. So our next step is step 5, which typically is plot the 4th point. But in this case, it's actually our 2nd point in this example. So we have to pick another x value. Pick another x value, and that other x value, well, I've only used 0, so I can choose any other number. What's the easiest number? 1, yes. So we're going to pick when x equals 1, we'll plug it into the equation y equals x squared. So y equals 1 squared. 1 squared equals 1 times 1, which is 1. So my coordinate is, I put 1 in for x. Come on. And come on. This is going to drive me crazy if I have to write it 15. Whoa, that's bad. 1, 1. Let's go up to our graph. Let's plot 1 on the x, 1 on the y. Gets us right here. And if I mirror it, the distance from the axis of symmetry is 1, so I will mirror it on the other side. And that takes me to -1, 1. Now I have 3 points, so I'm going to repeat step 5 again. Well, technically 5 was 6 was mirror. So now we're going to just repeat step 5 again because we need to find another point. Plot another point. Plot. This is truly our 4th point by picking another x value. We've used 0, 1, and -1, so I'm going to pick x equals 2. I'm going to plug it into the equation, the original equation, y equals 2 squared. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. So I get the point 2, 4. So 2 on the x, 4 on the y, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 2, 4. And it's 2 away from the axis of symmetry, so I'm going to go 2 away on the other side of the axis of symmetry, which takes me to -2, 4. And now I'm going to connect the dots, put arrows on it, and I am done. So I also want you to go over, and we're going to do problem number 5, because number 5 got very interesting. So let's again first start with what is our A, B, and C. Our A is 1, our B is 3, our C is -1. So first step is find the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is the opposite of B over 2A, the opposite of B over 2A. That gives me -3/2. So understand that -3/2 is -1/2. It's also -1.5. I'm okay with any of those 3 values. Since we have to find the location on the x-axis, I like the -1/2 or -1.5. So -1/2 is right here. So that is where my points are going to be reflected across. Now, second step is let's find the vertex. We find the vertex by plugging in -3/2 into this equation. So the equation is y equals x squared plus 3x minus 1. So let's plug in -3/2. We have -3/2 squared. Notice that I put parentheses around that, because if I don't have the parentheses and I see this and I write it like that, I'm only squaring the 3. I'm not even squaring the negative. I'm just squaring the 3. And this would give me -9/4, which is incorrect. Because my x value I'm squaring x. What is my x value? Well, we found my x value is -3/2. So I have to square that entire value. Plus 3 times -3/2 minus 1. So when we see -3/2 squared, that's -3/2 times -3/2. Quantity squared equals -3/2 times -3/2. Numerator times numerator gives me 9. Denominator times denominator gives me 4. So we get 9/4 minus 9/2, because when we multiply 3 times -3/2, that is equal to, let's move you over a little bit, 3 over 1 times -3 over 2. Numerator times numerator is -9. Denominator times denominator is 2. Minus 1. Now we want to combine those, so we have to have common denominators. Common denominator of those 4 would be fourths. 9/4 is already equal in fourths. When we convert -9/2 to -9/4, -9/2 equals how many fourths? We're going to multiply it by 2. So we get -18/4. Now here's a fun one. -1 is equivalent to how many fourths? Well, we make -1. First of all, we write it as a fraction. Then 1 times 4. So we get -4/4 is equivalent to 1. Now they're all same denominators. So 9/4 minus 18/4 is -9/4. Minus 4/4 is -13/4. And that is also equal to negative 3 1/4, or negative 3.25. All of those are okay. The coordinate, that's what we were doing. We plugged in, what did we plug in? We plugged in negative 3/2, or negative 1.5, produced negative 3.25. So that is going to be my coordinate. Negative 1.5, negative 3 1/4. 1, 2, 3 1/4 takes me there. I'm going to label it negative 1.5, negative 3.25. Let's move it over and make it a little bit more clear. Now, I'm going to plot my y-intercept. My y-intercept is my c value. So at negative 1, now how far is that from the axis of symmetry? Well, we've got a half here, and then we've got a hole there. So it's 1.5 away. So I'm going to do it 1.5 away over there, and it takes me to that location. Let's write the coordinate. This is 0, negative 1. And so this will be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 1. Remember, all mirror points will have the same y value, different x values. And now the final thing is, hey, we got to find a fourth point. That's the 5th step. So step 5 is find the 4th point, and I have to pick a value, an x value. So what would you want to do? Whoops, I didn't mean to move that. I think I moved it a little bit. Whoa, I just moved it a lot of bit. That's at negative 1. Good. What's the easiest value? 1. Yeah, we haven't used 1. We've used 0, we've used negative 1.5, and we've used 3. So let's use positive 1. That'll be easy. So 1 squared, what is it? Plus 3 times 1 minus 1. 1 squared is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Minus 1 is 4 minus 1 is 3. So my coordinate is going to be 1, 3. Let's plot it on there. 1, 1, 2, 3. That is 1, 2.5 away. So if I move it to, so if we move it 2.5 over, that gets me right here. That's good. We're good to go. Let's write the coordinates. That is 1, 3. Starting from the origin, 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, 1, 2, 3. So that point is negative 4, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. Ooh, Mr. Mac. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's good. Yep. I didn't want to do that either. Can I have that? Can I have those little dots back? Thank you. Now we have 5 points. Let's move it around. Perfect. And that is your graph. So for homework, I want you to do number 6. See if you can do number 6 using those 6 steps. First thing, tell me what A, B, and C is. Find the axis of symmetry. Find the vertex. Plot the y-intercept. Mirror the y-intercept. Pick a 4th point and mirror the 4th point. Come and see me if you have questions.